Good evening and welcome to everyone, and thank you for attending this evening's Planning Commission, the December 15th meeting of the San Bruno Planning Commission meeting. And before we start, I'd like to just have a couple of reminders, please. If you can please, there's agendas at the front area. If you would like an agenda for this evening, they're located at the front table. And for those who are viewing this and wish to follow along, the agenda and staff reports are available at sanbruno.ca.gov. And all Planning Commission meetings are recorded, and they're televised on cable channel 1, and they're replayed the following Thursday at 2 o'clock. And I ask if you can all please turn off your cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Marshall?
Here.
Vice Chair Chase?
Here.
Chair Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Biasati?
Here.
Commissioner Mishra?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
Commissioner Samud called earlier and will not be able to attend.
And if Commissioner Biasati can please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of course. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item of business are the minutes. The commissioners have all had the opportunity to review the minutes, and is there a motion?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson.
I move the minutes be approved with one note in I'm having trouble finding. One note on page 16 that I discussed with the secretary. It was a small change in my testimony.
Are there any other additions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Yes, that was a motion.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? I'm sorry, there is a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And the next item is communication of staff.
No further communication at this time.
Okay, thank you. The next item is time where the public can speak for items that are not on the agenda. So if there is anything that you would like us to present to us, please feel free to do so and step at the microphone at this time. However, if there is an item on the agenda, we request that you do it at the time of the item that is on the agenda. Okay. Hearing that there's no one, we'll go on to the next item for conflict of interest for any of the commissioners. Is there anything on the agenda that would create a conflict of interest? Okay. The first item, it's public hearing, is a request for a use permit to allow the construction of an addition that will result in a floor area above the .55 guidelines, which is .62, for section 12.200.030B2 of the San Bruno Municipal Code. And the applicant is Bob George, and staff report, please.
Thank you and good evening. As stated, the applicant has applied for a use permit to expand the existing single-family dwelling that exceeds the FAR guidelines. The subject site is located on the north side of Princeton Drive and is located on a 5,000 square foot lot. It is currently developed with a 2-story single-family dwelling. The project calls for a 504 square foot addition to the rear of the existing 2-story home. The first floor expansion will contain a new recreation room and a laundry room. There will also be a new hallway constructed to have the required internal circulation between the first and second story living areas. The second story expansion will include a new sunroom. That sunroom will be accessed by the dining room and through the master bedroom. The expansion will utilize stucco finish, which is consistent with the existing single-family dwelling, and will be painted to match the existing home. The sunroom will have a roof slope of 212, which matches the master bedroom roof slope as well, so you'll have consistent roof design throughout the project. The addition would result in an FAR of 0.62. However, overall staff finds that the addition is consistent with the existing single-family dwelling and the mass and the scale of the neighborhood. The addition is not visible from street view, as the addition is just confined to the rear of the lot and would not be visible from street view. The project also backs up to open space consisting of many large trees. The Architectural Review Committee reviewed the project and had one minor recommendation, and that was to make the addition a little bit more clear on the plans. The applicant has since revised the elevation, which can be found on page PD5. Overall, staff is supportive of the project and recommends that the Planning Commission approve use permit 09-028 based on findings of fact 1 through 6 and conditions of approval 1 through 23. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions from staff?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson?
When I noticed the project had a floor area ratio larger than the zoning requirement, I looked at what the rationale was for permitting that, and the explanation was that it fit into the mass of the house. And did you also say that it was almost not visible from the street?
Correct. Yeah, from street view, the mass of the home wouldn't really be enlarged that much because it would not be visible from the street view. It's located in the rear of the dwelling. Okay. And it's consistent with the adjacent neighbors directly to the west.
Thank you very much.
East.
Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open the public hearing, and if the applicant can please step forward and state your name, please, and a description of the project.
Good evening. My name is Robert S. George. I'm the architect on this project. My office is here in San Bruno. We have a substantial agreement. I've been working closely with staff over the development of this project. I wanted to point out a couple of other features, though, that are more of interest than are critical to the floor area ratio question we have here. The project takes up an existing deck that's been on the back of the house for quite some time. And in the interest of sustainability and the like, we've preserved most of the deck. The deck surface itself will come off. It's wood frame, but we're able to save the header and the columns and some parts of the footings in order to preserve it. We've also filled out the sustainability questionnaire in the back, the way you've mentioned it, requested it. And we'll have a tankless hot water heater to replace the tank type hot water heater. We're using engineered wood joists because they are stronger and more sustainable product. And if it's worthwhile, we might have fly ash in the concrete. Although there's not much concrete on this project, it may not be something worth pursuing. But we also intend to specify formaldehyde-free insulation and drywall product that is covered with fiberglass rather than paper to resist mold development. This is a project that will provide a recreation room for. You wonder what's going on in a recreation room this small. It consists largely of a treadmill and a stair climber, that type of exercise equipment, as well as a larger, more generous laundry, a little more convenient, which will free up space in the garage for storage. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Does the Commission have any questions for the applicant? Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment and bring it back to Planning Commission discussion. Commissioner Peterson.
I asked the only question I had. It looks like the application is very much in order, so I recommend, I make a motion to the commission to approve use permit 9-28 based on findings of fact 1 through 6 and conditions of approval 1 through 23.
Second.
It's been moved and second to, it's been moved and second to, for use permit 09-02. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There is a 10-day appeal process on this, and before any action can take place. Thank you. The next item is 2081 Whitman Way, and it's a request for an architectural review permit for facade improvements, a use permit for condominium conversions, and a variance for a substandard side setbacks for chapters 12-108-010, 12-88-020, and 12-124-010 of the San Bruno Municipal Code. It's the Marymount Place, and staff report, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Johnson and members of the Commission. The application that's before you tonight is for the renovation of Park Plaza Apartments and for the conversion of the complex to condominiums. The site is located at 2081 Whitman Way. That's at the corner of Cortlandt Drive, just west of 280. The site is approximately 1.2 acres, and it has an irregular shape, and it slopes downward to the street. The complex was built in 1964 with 48 units in 4 buildings. Currently, there is also one unpermitted unit that was added by a previous owner for a total existing count of 49. There are also 72 parking spaces. There's a significant amount of landscaping at the site, including many mature trees. In 1981, a previous owner applied for a condominium conversion at this location. At that time, the application included a tentative track map, a variance for the parking, and a use permit, or local approval for the condominium conversion. The Planning Commission approved all 3 of those entitlements at that time, and the City Council then approved the final map in 1982. As the Planning Commission is aware, the subdivision map entitlement comes from the state law, and that's actually the larger entitlement, and then the use permit is the local aspect of a condominium conversion. At about the same time, in 1981 to 1982, Shelter Creek converted to condominiums, and those started to go on the market. So at that time, the owners of Park Plaza withdrew their use permit from the city to avoid paying the condominium tax of $1,000 per unit. So the effect of that is that the subdivision map and the variance are effective. They've been in effect all of these years, but that old use permit is not in effect. So this current application that's before you includes a use permit that would complete that condominium conversion process that was begun in 1981 to 82, and also allow the owners to sell the units, really to go forward on something that was started back then. So I'd like to go through the details of the current application with you. So first, we'll talk about the architectural review permit, and that is required for the exterior changes to the building. We don't have very many ARC permits that come through for multifamily residential complexes, but they are required. We see them more often for commercial buildings. The applicant's design professional is here, and they have some materials to share with you, and they'll provide some more details, but I would like to highlight some of the main aspects of the exterior changes. Most notably, they propose new stucco, so a whole new exterior material, and it has vertical reveals that add some depth to the facade that really kind of has been lacking over the years. Of course, new paint. At the entrance, there would be new features, new stone veneer, and new canopy. The balconies would be refaced. Right now, they're in bad condition. It would be replaced with PVC decking board. It looks like wood, but it's very resistant to our local weather. So staff finds that these changes would significantly update the appearance of the buildings. The applicant is also proposing significant upgrades to the landscaping. About half of the trees are proposed to remain, and that would include the larger trees that are located at the rear of the site. Closer down to the street frontage and more around the front of the property, that would be replanted with new trees, shrubs, and ground cover. There's also a plant list that we have available. If you would like to see that tonight, it was reviewed at the Architectural Review Committee. It does include a range of flowering shrubs and a range of planting materials that are very consistent but also drought resistant and kind of meet our current expectations for landscaping plans. So overall, staff does find that those proposed exterior changes would be a significant improvement to the site. The Architectural Review Committee reviewed that aspect of the project on May 14th. They had some minor requests in terms of some green building measures, which will be presented by the applicant, as well as a rendering that included the trees, and that was included in your packet. So they forwarded the application with a positive recommendation. And so now if I can turn, please, to the use permit for the condominium conversion. As noted in the staff report, the municipal code has very detailed requirements for condominium conversions. So I'd like to highlight some of those key requirements for you. You may wish to reference page 4 of your staff report as we go forward, because staff has outlined there for you some of the tenant relocation benefits. The applicant has proposed to meet or exceed all of the tenant relocation requirements of the municipal code, and they are quite detailed, as you can see there in the report. All tenants would receive some benefits if they are in good standing and if they stay in their units until the owners ask them to vacate. Tenants that decide to purchase a unit would have that first right of refusal. They would receive a 5% discount off the sales price, and they would have assistance. They would receive assistance with the moving expenses during the renovation. So they'd have to move out of the unit they were living in, live in another unit in the complex, and then presumably back into that unit if they wish to purchase it. Tenants that are not going to purchase a unit would receive a minimum of 4 months' notice that they need to vacate, a cash payment of 4 months' rent, a refund of their deposits, and also help finding a new place to live. It's important to note, too, that there are 9 households in the complex that qualify for additional assistance because they are senior citizens or permanently disabled. Those folks will also receive an option to live in the complex for up to 5 years with rents that are limited by the municipal code. And if they move at the initial request of the property owner, they would receive an additional $5,000 cash relocation benefit. So for those folks, the benefit ranges from $10,000 to about $11,600 for folks that are seniors or permanently disabled. So also as part of the conversion process, the owner is required to assess the condition of the property and make commitments to make the repairs for things that need to be immediately done, and also to fund a reserve to make repairs that need to be done in the future. And that has been shown, and staff has reviewed all of that information with this project. The applicant also proposed to upgrade significant upgrades in the interior of the units before they were sold. That includes things like floor coverings, doors and hardware, appliances, countertops. So the units would be substantially new on the inside when they were to be sold. And so the final entitlement before you is for a variance, and the variance is required to allow a new exterior staircase on the east side of the complex. The staircase would have a 1-foot side setback at the closest point, where the municipal code requires a 3-foot side setback. Staff finds that the variance is warranted in this case. It would provide access to that side of the complex. It would not have a negative impact on neighbors, because that adjacent property that is kind of open space, if you had an opportunity to drive by, is actually a 60-foot easement that the water company has. And so that staircase should not have a negative impact on any surrounding neighbors. For this project, the applicant and staff did a significant amount of outreach to the tenants of Park Plaza, in addition to our customary noticing that we would do to property owners in the area. The applicant conducted 2 meetings. The details are in your staff report, and I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any questions for them about it. Staff also sent letters and also sent a survey to the residents as required by the code. The results are in your staff report, but to summarize, 4 tenants supported the project, 4 expressed no particular opinion, and 8 tenants opposed the conversion. Many of the comments, as you can see in the staff report and in the attachment, Many of the comments were related to their concerns about finding affordable and safe places to live. So based on these comments and staff's analysis, we have included several conditions to try to help protect the residents and to help them through this transition process. So I'd like to draw your attention to some of those conditions. Condition number 17 requires a pre-construction meeting that would include the tenants of Park Plaza. So we would notify them, the contractor would be on site, it would be an opportunity to review a final construction schedule and make sure that they have a contact person to contact if there's any concerns while renovations are going on. Condition number 18, staff has proposed to limit the construction hours in this case because our normal construction hours would be quite long for the tenants to go through a long construction process. So we would propose 7:30 to 6 p.m. That's what's included in the condition. Condition number 20 is very unique to a condominium conversion project. It says that the applicant would have to provide a detailed schedule to the community development director, to staff, when they're ready to move forward with the conversion process. So that would include things like, when are their tenant seminars going to be? How is the conversion going to be phased? When will their relocation benefits kick in? Kind of what can they expect? After we review that schedule, then they would be required to have a meeting to share that schedule with all of the residents. And condition number 21 we've added. Based on some comments that I heard from folks, I thought it may be appropriate to have a speaker on affordable housing programs in the area at one of their seminars, because some of the residents may be eligible for affordable housing and not know how to gain access to it. So finally, I would like to summarize why staff is recommending approval of this project. It includes a significant investment in the property, which is at this time in need of repairs. It would improve safety by adding fire sprinklers to this complex. And the fire department has indicated to us that this apartment complex is a significant concern for them because of the slope of the site and the unique characteristics of the building. And so they find that this would be a big improvement in safety there. The aesthetics would be improved dramatically with the facade changes and with the landscaping improvements. The updates would improve energy efficiency, and they've implemented or plan to implement green building measures as well. And there's a condition for a bike rack. And from a citywide perspective, there would be a 1.4% reduction in multifamily rental units. So from a citywide perspective, this changing from apartments to condominiums is relatively small, a 1.4% reduction. And also the majority of housing units that have been provided here in San Bruno since 2000, so really in this decade, those have been mostly rental housing. And finally, there is a need for affordable home ownership opportunities in San Bruno, and this complex would afford that to residents and people in the area. So staff recommends approval of Architectural Review Permit 09001, Use Permit 09006, and Variance 09002, based on findings of fact 1 through 11, and subject to conditions of approval 1 to 36. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for staff?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Andrews?
I have a question on, this is on. I have a question on number, conditions of approval number 20. I'm a little concerned about the requirements of, making a detailed schedule. I feel that it's actually in the city's best interest to give a listing of what exactly is the detail that they're looking for, because I've made schedules before and it is nearly impossible to anticipate what is important to the city. So I would prefer that the city give the owner and the contractor a list of items that they feel it's important.
Yeah, we could do that, provide a list of what we're looking for as well as a template that they could follow.
That's fine, thanks.
Any additional questions? Hold on a second. Thank you. We'll now open up the public comment. And there are some, that's correct, sorry. If the applicant can please step forward and to give us a detailed description of your project. State your name, please, and
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Mike McCracken, I'm representing the owners Jasbir Walia and Gary Meyer. And our architect engineer, Steve Mincy, is also here to address any questions. And I will be mercifully brief. The staff report that Laura presented was full, accurate, comprehensive, and we have absolutely no questions or issues with it. For the record, I would like to note condition number 8, which was sound transmission requirements in compliance with section 207 of the California Building Code. As I read that section, first of all, the concern that I might have here is just the cost effectiveness of sound transmission compliance or requirements under today's standards for a building that was built in the 1960s. It may or may not be a problem from a cost-effective standpoint. It may be cost prohibitive. As I read the ordinance, and I spoke with Laura before, and I believe she agrees with me, I see some flexibility built into that particular ordinance to allow the local entity, in this case the city of San Bruno, to have flexibility to work with the applicant to come up with solutions that address the noise considerations of the ordinance, yet do not make it cost prohibitive. And all I would like to do is go on record with that statement and say that we really want to work with the staff on this, and it's my understanding that the staff agrees with that particular position. But don't take my word for it, talk with your staff. Outside of that, I have nothing further to comment. I would be prepared to answer any questions that you have, and I would like to turn it over to our architect and engineer, Steve Mincy. And he can run through the design aspects of this, the green building aspects, and any engineering questions you have.
thank you, Ms. McCracken.
Thank you.
If you can also please state your name, your full name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Steve Mincy. I'm with DES Architects and Engineers. The project that we have here, because of the date in which it was built, and as Laura has alluded to, is in need of repair, but also in need of a facelift. And so the approach that we took, as you look at the existing images, our approach was, when we saw this, we saw a lot of random vertical lines on those two images, and we felt that it would be sure, or I think we're ready to pull those off. We want to be kind of down a white with the two out there.
If the commission can see them, we can leave them there. Would you like me to move them forward?
They are actually visible to me. Commissioners, are you able to see the details?
Okay. Good.
And at one point, I'm sure the audience may want to see them. We might at one point determine their direction, but they're very clear to us. Thank you.
Good. So that was, as we saw this, so we felt that what the project needed was some more horizontal aspects to pull the project together. And so let me pull those off, or the images that are behind, and if you can just set those down. So also the fascia material, this is a combination of both what should we do from an architectural point of view, but also what items were great there. Thank you. What items were in need of repair. And the upper fascia along that horizontal, the roof band was in need of repair. And so one of the elements that we have there is we've wrapped that with a metal fascia so that it can be more durable, and also it upgrades the look. And then we've added these horizontal elements in stucco, as Laura had spoken about, that will have some vertical grooves in them so that it adds some texture to the building because the facade is so large. And then there's a system, I'm going to walk over and point and then come right back. I guess you don't have a traveling mic here.
Actually, we do.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Great, thank you. Oh, wow, that's loud. Okay, so one of the elements also on the building, on the existing building, are these verticals in between the open garages down below the building, and they have small beam ends that stick out and are very random and not terribly attractive. So matching the horizontal piece at the top, we also, out of the same material, have a louver type material that's actually going to hide the ends of those beams and again add to some of the horizontal look of the building. And then, as you can see, using the two different textures of stucco on the building and then the deck material out of a complementing color is how we've attempted to do this treatment here. And then the two accent pieces, one is the existing fire escape, which is here and currently has a number of vertical, I believe they're about 2x8 wood pieces there that are showing some sign of in need of updating and whatnot. We're going to pull those off, and we'll be adding these metal panels on that portion of the building, and that'll match the metal panel that we've chosen for the entry, updating the entry feature from where it is currently in the with the canvas awning. So those are really the hallmarks, and then of course here above the garage, adding a similar material where we currently just have the wood fascia that again is showing signs of decay and wanting to update that as well. The other main item is the use of the rock that we've chosen for the entry. As you may have seen in some of the existing photos and whatnot, that rock is, I know it's kind of odd to say the rock is old because all rock is old, but the style of the rock that was used in the entry is darker, more rough, and so we wanted to come up with something that was a little bit sleeker, has a little bit finer pattern to it that speaks to sort of the updated, sleeker look of the building that we're trying to present. And then as well, coming up with a new entry feature, aluminum and glass storefront that doesn't feel so dark and recessed as it currently is to help update that. So those are the major elements of what we're doing on the building itself. From the site point of view, we haven't changed the site significantly. However, it's important to note that as we were talking about the one sidewalk that needs the variance because of its closeness to the property line, which is this sidewalk along here, and again, this is the easement running along this side of the project. The idea of doing the steps in the sidewalk were to provide emergency access to the back unit. As Laura spoke about, the fire trucks are not able to get underneath these two buildings at this point because of the lowness of the roof and the steepness of the driveway. So by adding the extra walkway and stairs on the left-hand side here, we provide some direct either egress from people getting out of this building in the case of a fire, or assisting firefighters to work their way up the side if this area is blocked. So that was the element for that. As far as the landscaping, again, almost a complete replacement of everything with the exception of, and we've listed out the trees in the packet that you have, the existing trees, holding on to all the larger trees along the buffer side here with the residential area, and then trying to replace as much as possible on the street frontage and in the courtyard area. Oh, the one item that hasn't been mentioned also is that we've built in a handicap inaccessible stall here in the front of the project because currently there are no accessible parking spaces, and we felt that that was an important addition with a walkway that comes across, be able to get into the lobby and get to the elevator. So currently there isn't one of those, and that would be for visitor parking at this time. So if there's any other questions, I'll be happy to. Oh, well, sure. So let's, okay. So just trying to add just a touch of movement to the presentation. And we may have to play that again. So here's the corner. As we work our way around, you can see the scale of the project and the new entry at that point. And then we have a second one that is of the entry. So short and brief, but it gives you a sense as it moves around. And one of the main the aspects of it, right now there's a planter box that comes out this way on the project. We've eliminated that because it does create sort of this dark hole, and we're trying to avoid that feeling. And so, again, trying to lighten up, brighten up, make it a little bit sleeker. Okay. one final item I wanted to mention were the sustainable measures. You have a list of them in your packet. Most of it centers around the interior of the project in terms of replacing older appliances and making sure we have energy efficient windows, which they've already done that upgrade to the project, but energy efficient entry doors being fiberglass doors, replacing the toilets with low flow toilets, and obviously the light fixtures that get replaced will have compact fluorescence in them. And then we've really talked about the exterior with redoing the landscaping, having drought-tolerant materials on the outside and whatnot. One thing I might mention is that sometimes what gets lost in sustainability is demolition. And the fact that what we're trying to do is add to and do very little taking away from the building means that we're not putting a lot of material into the landfill. And from our standpoint, that is always a goal to make it an addition to, as opposed to something that gets torn out and thrown away. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Through the chair.
If you can please stay standing and.
Sure, of course.
A couple questions. One is the rear elevations. I don't see any rear elevations, or the east side elevations. You see, at the rear, you don't see too much. The neighbors going up Cortland don't agree with me, but coming up Whitman, we do see the east side elevation quite a bit, and none of these pictures that I saw have any of those. I'll ask a couple questions. You can answer them all probably.
Sure.
One is on time framing. Are you going to do one building at a time, or are you going to try to take on the whole thing? And how about lighting? Any exterior lighting? And I think that's all I had for you.
Okay, let's take them in reverse order because that's where I'll remember them. Exterior lighting, yes, we're replacing the exterior fixtures outside each of the units, updating those with something a little more modern. And as far as the, I've already lost all of them.
The rear and side elevations.
Rear and side. In your packet, in the full-size drawings, I believe there is an image of what we were proposing for the rear of the project. We did not bring color images of that. That's page A3. And it just shows the treatment. We're going to be replacing the railings on the project because of the fact that they're currently metal rails that are bolted into a piece of wood, and they're not meeting current codes, and so those will all get replaced. And it will be replaced with a pattern that has the same materials that's being used on the decks on this side of the project will be used in front of each of the entries. The idea is there is to give a little more privacy as you open the door and enter your unit and whatnot, and then open pattern on the railing in between. And so that shows up on A3. Oh, please, that'd be great. So this is Laura will show you the color version of that particular drawing. And again, didn't detail it all the way down the building, but showed you kind of the concept about emphasizing the entry, and that's where the new light fixtures would be as well near each of those. As far as phasing, yes, we anticipate doing a building at a time, and being able to move people around and kind of go through one then the next.
And is a building by building going to determine on sales of the units, or is it going to be a strict time frame?
I would have to defer that to the owner.
And another little minor thing, nothing major. On the front elevation, on the corner of Cortland and Whitman, there is currently a bus stop, and it's a real busy bus stop for especially for the schools and a lot of the apartments there. I was wondering if you could maybe incorporate some type of bench or a park, because you have a grass area there now, and now you have a wall separating the sidewalk from the street. And I think it might be a good idea to maybe get together with Samtrans or maybe just your own little thing and incorporate something in there.
I'm not recalling. There's actually a grass area on the corner of Whitman and...
No. Right now, you see the bent Samtrans sign?
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not all the way in the corner, yeah, just on that, close to, right there. But in your new elevation, you're showing a nice grass area there, or it looks like a lawn area with some trees and flowers.
I'm sure a bench could easily be incorporated into that frontage.
I think it's a big, keep people off your grass and out of your property probably too. Because that is a lot of kids from the school take the bus up and down the street there.
Okay. Through the chair.
My name's Gary Meyer. I just want to mention, that would be no problem. Actually, the sign's gone. Somebody's knocked it over, so we have to put a new one up. But no, a bench would be fine, and maybe an addition, a nice addition to the looks of the buildings.
Commissioner Mishra?
Through the chair. I have a couple of comments. We'll just go through question by question.
Sure.
First of all, as far as the sound insulation of the between the condos, I'm a little concerned about how you plan to meet those thresholds, and also how you plan to transfer that information over to the new owners, or new owners, I guess. And do you have a game plan on how you plan to transfer that information? Because sound coefficient in an existing building obviously is important, and if we go through an alternate means of compliance, I would like to let the new owners know what they're getting into.
Yeah. I'll defer to Mike since he's had the conversation.
What we're going to do is we're going to defer to your staff. And we have to comply with all requirements.
Mm-hmm.
The question I got is, what level of compliance is required under the 2007 building code standards for buildings that were built back then? To the extent that there's disclosure required, of course. Everything, the DRE is going to require full disclosure of all aspects of this development to prospective purchasers. But it's going to be your staff working with us that comes up with a standard that works. And I don't know what that's going to be as we sit here tonight,
mm-hmm.
because we just don't. It's a highly elusive concept at this point about how you
well, in my opinion, once you open that wall, you'll figure.
Pardon?
Once you open up that wall and see those connections, you'll be able to better determine. I understand that.
And it's obviously our hope that that's a minimal task, because
Okay.
it gets very, very expensive. But I'm just going by the flexibility built into the ordinance, and we're perfectly willing to defer to your staff on this.
Okay.
If that answers I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Next question. Now, it seems that a lot of things that you're changing or modifying on the site, those components are actually part of the LEED requirements for even the basic requirements, exterior lighting, sustainability in terms of materials, in terms of recycling, and it seems that it would be prudent to actually either go for LEED equivalency or going for the minimum LEED credits for this project. I mean, I understand that LEED is expensive, but at least meeting the benchmark to say that this is a LEED equivalent project would be something that should be part of this project. How do you feel about that?
I don't believe there's enough that we're proposing to do. We are proposing to give it a facelift, but at this time, I don't think there's enough to work with to actually get full LEED equivalency.
Actually, I'm looking at existing transportation, existing building. I'm looking at how you could actually use down lights on the exterior property so that you're not doing light pollution. In terms of the actual square footage, you're not increasing the square footage. I mean, the way I see it is you could apply for LEED if you wanted to, from what I see from this project. So I would like to encourage you to try to go in that direction if possible. Obviously, I don't know if I have any. I wouldn't want to force it upon you, but at least LEED equivalency is what I'm hoping for. And I see almost everything you're proposing would go in that direction. Bike racks. I mean, you're even putting in bike racks.
Yes.
So I mean, elements of this project really speak to the sustainability of what I'm pushing for.
Okay. Again, all those elements you mentioned, yes, we plan on doing all of that. As you probably know, to actually go through the LEED process has a lot of paperwork, a lot of
Right.
certifications, that type of thing, and
I am LEED certified, so I understand there are repercussions of going to get LEED certification. That's why I'm asking for LEED equivalency, where you are attempting to do it through your specs and through your drawings, and not actually getting a certification.
okay. Well, we're certainly willing to work with.
We are striving to get as far as we can along that line with this, with green building and sustainability. To the extent it leads to LEED's equivalency, yes, but we can't commit to that.
Okay. How many units are ADA or is it just the stall? I'm trying to,
At this time, I believe it's just the handicap stall that we're installing. I don't know if any of the units are actually set up to be ADA accessible.
okay, all right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Busatti.
Aaron, how much latitude do you see in, as far as the sound insulation when you look at that issue? What do you see as your latitude in answering that question?
The first thing I would do is add to Condition 8 to the satisfaction of the building official. This will give the building official the ability to use alternative means to meet the code requirements, which we often do for existing buildings attempting to meet current code. So I would recommend that we add that line. I would also recommend that whatever means we choose, that be disclosed to the potential home buyers and noted within the CC&Rs. We've had issues with other condo complexes that met this requirement through alternative means. And we've had people come back to the city, residents who live there back to the city because they're not happy with the way that means was met. So I would like to see that incorporated into this condition and also relayed to potential homeowners by the CC&Rs.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now officially open the public hearing, and members of the public can certainly speak. There are some procedures in place, and what we ask is if each person can state what they wish for us to hear. However, if there are several of you speaking on the same item, it's a good use of time to speak on a separate matter, so we're not hearing the same item at each time. You could actually let us know that you agree with the previous speaker, and and that you would like to add your additional points to it. We do have a timer. It's you're set at 3 minutes, and we certainly are eager to hear your comments. And we ask that you address your comments directly to us as commissioners. So the procedure is that you would step to the podium, state your name, and your street address, not necessarily your address, but your street name for the record. The public hearing is now open, and you're welcome to stand in line and step forward.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Clarich. I'm at 2081 Whitman Way. Lived there for quite a while. Project going forward as a condominium, giving people affordable housing, I think would probably be an acceptable idea. I've been there quite a while, 40 years to be exact, that I've lived there. So the building's a good location. It's got a lot of things going for it. And I think it would be a good idea as far as for people looking for affordable housing, as long as those criteria would be made throughout the development of it, I think it'd be good.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Nick DeMario, live at 370 Cortland. I have no major objections to the project. I'm one of the closest resident or neighbor to the unit D there. And my only personal concerns are the privacy issue. I don't know if this development will provide any privacy screening on the upper floors on the balcony side there, because they will be overlooking, and they are right now overlooking 3 or 4 of our residential homes there. But in particular, mine is more exposed to the south. I'm on the southwest side of the Unit D, and the rear balcony there is overlooking the whole backyard, basically, of our residents. And so I'm not sure, I apologize, I haven't looked at this report, so I don't know if they're providing any screening on the balcony side there, or even landscaping-wise, provide some sort of privacy up to a certain level, you know. I know there's some oleander plants on most of the fence line except my fence in the area, so maybe that could provide some additional screening when they're doing the landscaping. That's one question. My other question is, I'm not sure the density of the units. Like I said, I apologize, I haven't read the report. Is the number of occupants in parking areas, is that going to go up? What is the expectations as far as traffic? You know, we're getting a lot of parking on Cortland as it is from the apartments right now up to past my level, you know, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else I have right now.
Thank you. We're very happy to note your questions, and I'll just defer to the director if you wish to answer them all at the end of the public comment, or do you wish to address them as each one comes up?
I just could answer them real quickly now. These ones are pretty easy. They are adding there's a number of additional landscaping added. I do not think there will be any additional landscaping. It's hard to tell because I don't know the orientation of his lot, how it is on Cortland, but I do not think there's any additional landscaping that will help with the screening. But there are a number of trees that are already out there, and there is a number of ground cover type landscaping that will be added. Regarding same amount of parking spaces, one less unit than that's there right now. Right now there's one unit that's unpermitted that will no longer be there. So the number of units actually goes down by one, and the number of parking spaces stays the same.
The number of what? I'm sorry?
Number of parking spaces stays the same.
Stay the same?
Yeah.
But what is the expected occupancy, the number of persons or units? Or
Yeah, in general, rentals don't change the amount of occupancy compared to condos. So the number of bedrooms is staying the same. Therefore, we expect the occupancy to stay the same.
And one last comment. In the interest of keeping a good neighbor policy with the closest residents there, is there a way we could get involved in the final pre-construction or final design approval? I don't know what the next step is, but it would be, I don't know what the policy is, but it would be nice if you could get us involved in the final.
It's pretty common that that you have the opportunity to speak at this meeting. It's common to have neighborhood meetings, and I will certainly make note of that and be sure that your address is taken down so that you be notified of any activities that might take place where public comment could be taken into consideration.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your
You're
time.
welcome. Thank you for your comments, sir. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak on this project?
Good evening. My name is Matt Tucker, and I live at 2081 Whitman Way. I've lived there for a little over a year now. I'd just like to comment on what Joe had to say, as some of us would like the option, you know, to buy, and just like to reiterate what he was saying as far as would be a good investment for some of us and a good opportunity, granted it's an affordable option in San Bruno. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Any other members of the public? I'd like the applicant, if you can please, there was a question, pardon me? Sorry. There was a question on privacy, and that didn't get answered. And so if the applicant, do you have any comments towards that privacy question that came up from the gentleman on Cortland? Excuse me, if you have a question, you're welcome to go to the microphone.
No, I said I agree with what Nick said about the back of the building overlooking the backyard.
Okay. I've asked, hopefully that the applicant can address that issue since it's your same question. And if you do have any questions, we'd be happy to hear your comments. So that way it's on the record and you have the opportunity also to have written information sent to you.
Just further helpful for everyone that hasn't been to the site. On the back side of the site, as it goes uphill, on the right side, if you were on Cortland or Whitman looking at it, there are 3 or 4 houses that go up what I call the right side. And there is some trees there. Some trees grow faster than others. We don't have a problem with something as long as it fits into the drought-resistant kind of tree, and if it can grow fast enough to fill it, we'll do our best to give as much privacy to those tenants as possible. We consider ourselves good tenants, or good neighbors, and we want to continue that. I'm not a gardener, so I can't tell you we'll plant this tree or that tree, but sure, when we do our landscape, we'll certainly take into consideration the privacy, because it works both ways. We want the privacy for our project as well.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to comment? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment and bring it back to Planning Commission for discussion.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Marshall.
Aaron or Laura or staff or somebody. One of the comment, the one about the neighborhood meeting, can we put even a condition there that before the construction that the developer will set up a meeting with the neighbors so that they can tell them about the time framing of the construction and give them, like some of these contractors, we give them hotline numbers. If there are problems during construction, they know who to call, so they're not calling you. They know who to call.
Correct. That's how the condition is actually worded now, that they have a pre-construction meeting on site, and that they're able to meet the contractor at that and get him or her number, so it's readily available, and they don't have to call us every time there's a problem.
And so that will go out to the same posting as this would be to, or?
Correct. This was originally for the tenants, but we could also invite those who would like to be, who are in attendance here and would like to be invited to that meeting.
Through the chair. I'd like to extend that requirement to actually post the number on top of the banner that usually goes on a construction site, if that's possible.
Okay.
Commissioner Mishra, you're indicating to post the telephone number?
The hotline.
The hotline number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Bisiadi?
Sorry, we did? Yeah. I have 2 questions for staff. What are the ADA parking requirements on a redevelopment of this site? What kind of changes are required for that? And the second question is, how do we formulate affordable housing? Because a lot of folks have mentioned an interest in affordable housing. I noticed in this, they're offering 5% discounts. Is there a certain number of units that will be designated affordable housing, or what's that story?
I did talk to the building official about handicap accessibility both for units and for parking. The ADA parking space is not required. They are offering the ADA parking space at this location. So that's my understanding based on my conversation with the building official. In regards to affordable housing, I think the way that most people have been referring to it here tonight is with a lowercase a, if you will. And so not meeting the kind of local government standards of affordable housing, but just affordable compared to the market at large. The condition of approval that staff has included about having a seminar about affordable housing is affordable housing in the formal sense of income-restricted housing that is available through government and nonprofit agencies. And so there is not a technical affordable housing requirement on this project because it is a conversion. So it is not subject to the below market rate housing requirements that new units would be.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Chase?
To staff, or maybe not to staff, maybe to the developer. So none of the converted units or proposed converted units are going to be ADA accessible? Is that what I have to understand? I mean, 0? Pardon me? I understand.
Yeah,
it's not
actually, if we could have the applicant step to the microphone, please.
The answer, Commissioner, is that no, none of the units will be ADA compatible for two reasons. One, it's not required primarily. Secondly, it just doesn't work into the cost effectiveness of it. I don't know if that's the answer, the most ideal answer, but that's the fact.
Yeah, it's not the most ideal answer, for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, okey-doke, thank you.
Okay. To the AD, we have exceeded the existing ADA requirements, though, with the space and the accessibility to the complex itself, just for the record.
Thank you. Commissioner Mish, I can read your mind.
Yeah, you can. Through the chair, you know, this ADA issue does bother me. And I wonder, instead of making a unit ADA accessible or making it ADA ready, is there any way to install backing plates in the wall and actually make it convertible in the future? So instead of having tubs, to have actually shower, instead of, you know, pre-installing backing plates in the shower already and getting that up and ready, so that if anyone wanted to convert a unit in the future, would that be something that you'd be looking forward to?
All I can say is that any requirement...
We're going to need to have, I'm sorry, we're going to need to respond into the microphone, so it's our audience. Our meetings are being recorded, so therefore, I know it's easy to just to respond back. And Rose, we would be happy to take your comments. If you can just answer that question, and then we can take you. If you can just step aside for a moment and let him answer that question.
Understand. I answer the question first, and then I'll take your comment.
You can just, for 1 second.
I can't stand here.
Okay, then you know what? We'd be happy to take your comment,
Mine's
Rose.
going to be a fast one.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm Rose Erbach, and the question is, what's affordable? Is affordable housing for the rich or for the poor? For when? What is affordable? And if somebody buys an affordable house or whatever, can they turn around and sell it? Are you going to put a condition on it that they have to keep this affordable property for a length of time? Otherwise, they can turn around and just sell it. And it sells east of El Camino. They sell like nothing. And so that's the question.
Okay, thank you.
So who's going to answer?
Okay. The answer will need to come from the applicant. And so he will
want
answer.
Specifics now.
I'll try to give you specifics, man. I don't want you in my case. The units are not going to be affordable in the sense that they're going to be price restricted. That's period. There's no requirement of that. The units will be affordable, as Laura said, in the lower case, in that they will be ownership housing, multifamily ownership housing that I believe there is a dire need for and there's a market for. It's not going to satisfy everyone's housing needs, and make no mistake about that, and we would not represent otherwise. It will not be price restricted. I'll put it in writing. I'm saying it here on the public record, ma'am. It's not price restricted.
Thank you. I also just want to mention that the public hearing has been closed, and it is our discretion to open it. So if you can please, if you're going to need to respond, I will need to decide if we will have a public comment opened again. Thank you.
So addressing the question with regards to making some of the units or a number of the units ADA retrofit ready in terms of placing backing plates and that type of thing in the units. I think it's significant enough in taking wallboard off, or, you know, in case of the bathrooms and having the grab bars in the right place and everything, that it certainly wasn't our intent to do that. And doing it to a number of units, if, you know, I almost heard you referring to, can you do it to all the units, and then, you know, somebody could decide whether or not to retrofit. I think that would be cost prohibitive.
I'd like to rephrase that. I'm thinking about just 1 or 2 units. I'm not thinking beyond 2, because I'm sort of comparing it to the parking stall to the unit. So if you're doing 1, I would want at least 1 that is ready, you know, on the ground floor. So the thresholds are taken care of, et cetera, so that if someone who was, you know, physically challenged wanted to buy a unit that they wanted to convert for a little price, that is possible.
Now, 1 or 2 units, I don't
That,
Sir.
I, Mike, you need to be
Sir,
on, you need to be
you
up
need to be
here
on
on the
the mic-
record. But I'll,
microphone.
I think, yes, I could speak for them that one
Okay.
or two units, we could certainly make that so it is retrofittable. But again, the purpose of the space, to go back to that, you will be able to get into the lobby, use, I mean, we're making all of that accessible, ADA accessible to the elevator, up to the other floors. You'll be able to get to the units, but in terms of, once you get inside, there's certain hallway width requirements and all of that, and that would require structural removal of some of the walls, and that would become cost prohibitive on some of those units, but there may be some, we can look at the various floor plans and try to identify the units that might be most, easily.
So personally, what I'm looking for is the bathroom is the biggest, the chunk which will cost an ADA folk to actually convert. So that is something that I would like to have ready. I understand you can't move walls. You don't want to move walls because structurally you don't want to keep, destroy the integrity of the building. But as far as the bathrooms being accessible, at least if one floor plan met some of the requirements, it would be easier to convert that. That's basically the intent.
My answer would be very simple, that if there's a buyer who is willing to buy, yes, we will accommodate one or two. I'm Jasper Walia, I'm the owner.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had another question, which is for the...
Did I answer?
The applicant?
Yes, that's fine,
Okay,
thank you. For the planning director, is there a way we're going to memorialize the sustainability measures besides what's on the sheet? Is there a way we do it in the city, like?
At this time, no, other than we have the condition of approval that says that, they must follow the plan as submitted and approved by the Planning Commission. And since it is attachment to the report, and we do have them on record saying, that they are going to move ahead with certain sustainable measures, they would have to follow those. But we don't have any method right now where we actually lay it out, but that's something we'll work on with the new zoning code ordinance.
Okay, great, thanks.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Biasotti?
As far as the sustainability that Commissioner Misha brought up, perhaps we can come up with a checklist for the inspectors as they go and look at this project, that they can just check it off and have something that they can work with so that they know what's been on that plan and we can continue to follow that through the process.
Absolutely, and actually one of our inspectors, John Murphy, is green certified now. He went through a recent education process, so he'll know what to look for.
Right, but providing our inspectors a checklist of what we've agreed to tonight might be a good way to go.
Yeah.
Through the chair, to add to that requirement, that checklist should probably be made before construction starts so that it is available to the owner. Otherwise, that's a costly affair.
Absolutely. What we'll do is we'll also review, when we have our pre-construction meeting with staff and the contractor, we'll review it with the contractor at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Well, through the chair. I will make a motion that we approve AR 09-001, use permit 09-006, and the variance 09-002, based on findings of fact 1 through 11, conditions of approval 1 through 36, with the so noted changes that were discussed and agreed upon. Okay.
Would you like me to review those?
Yes.
Quickly,
Sure.
the conditions.
Yes,
The first condition was in addition to condition number 8 to say that the condition shall be met to the satisfaction of the building official and that the sound requirements shall be noted within the CCNR so the homeowners can be aware of those requirements. The other is that the contractor phone number be posted and be made available to the public. And then also that a checklist be provided to the applicant and the contractor so that all green requirements can be met.
So technically, I'm sorry, Aaron, I didn't mean to interrupt. So technically, those last two would be additional.
Correct.
We're looking at 38 then, right?
Yes. And then one other note on condition number 20, that staff shall also invite all interested neighbors to the pre-construction meeting held at the subject site.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson.
There's also discussion of having a city template or list of schedule items that the city will ask the applicant to provide at that meeting.
Correct. I think we'll take that as direction rather, since it's not actual requirement of the applicant, or if you could add it as a condition for staff.
Right, but then it should be stated that they would provide a schedule that includes items on the list that this city will provide. Would that work?
Perfect.
Thank you.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. There is a 10-day appeal process. You're welcome.
I'm just annoyed that.
If we can if you have any more comments, you're welcome to have discussion outside of the room area so we can go on to the rest of our agenda. We want to encourage you to continue to have discussions, but if you don't mind. The next item of business is adjacent to 1736 Niles Avenue. It's a request for a conditional use permit to install a wireless telecommunication facility within a residential zoning district on a joint utility pole in the public right-of-way for sections 12220 and 1284-160 of the San Bruno zoning ordinance. Staff report, please. You can just hold a moment, Matt. I know there's a lot of discussion behind you. And if it might be necessary to close the door.
That's Rose. That's Rose.
We all know who it is.
She's got a plan about you too.
Through the chair, before we get started, I'm sorry. You know what? I just have a question. Maybe I should ask the city attorney as far as conflict of interest. Although I live very close to this particular item, I think I'm, more than 500 feet. I haven't taken a tape measure out, to be honest with you, but pardon me?
Did you receive a notice in the mail?
Not that I am aware of.
Did you receive the public notice of the item in the mail?
Not that I'm aware of it. That doesn't mean that it didn't come through my household and I didn't see it. I think I'm probably more than 500 feet away. I just wanted to be sure.
Staff is actually going through and checking at this time, just to verify
Great.
that.
Which project site were you
Matter of
concerned
public
about?
record. Pardon me?
Which project site? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
Oh,
beginning.
it's the one on Niles.
Niles, okay.
1736 Niles. Well, maybe for the
Right?
purpose while
It's
we're checking.
1901 Donner. I mean, it's no big secret.
You're more than 500 feet.
That's what I'm thinking. But I just want to make sure.
Each lot is 50
Our real
feet. You're more
estate
than 10 houses away.
agent indicated.
Oh, no.
While they're checking, just to, for the purpose of,
You're more than 10 houses away, right?
it might be good to recuse yourself until you have.
I think I'm okay. I just want to make
You're
sure.
more than 10 houses away, right?
Depends how the crow flies. I should be okay, right?
So the notice only goes out to 300 feet. We cannot verify that you
300
are
feet.
not in the zone. Therefore, in abundance of caution, I would recommend that you step down and recuse yourself for the
Accept that
item.
recommendation then.
What's that?
I'll accept that recommendation. That'd be a smart thing to do.
Staff report, please.
Thank you. As stated, the applicant has applied for a use permit to construct a new wireless facility within a residential zoning district. The wireless facility is proposed to be attached to an existing public utility pole adjacent to 1736 Niles Avenue within the public right-of-way. The utility pole would be expanded by 7 feet to accommodate the new wireless facility. Specifically, 3 antennas would be installed on top of that new 7-foot wood riser and would be enclosed by a radome. Therefore, those antennas would not be visible from street view. Additionally, 4 related equipment cabinets will be installed on the pole itself. The overall height of the pole would be 49 feet 11 inches, which is 1 inch shorter than our municipal code requirement. The Architectural Review Committee reviewed this project at the November 12th meeting, and at that meeting, one of the committee members requested that the full Planning Commission review and discuss the level of stealthing proposed. In this case, staff does find that the proposal is consistent with the stealth requirement, as the radome will screen the antennas from public view, and all equipment will be painted to match the existing utility pole. Additionally, the Architectural Review Committee also requested that modifications be made to the existing signage to ensure that the public could read the contact number from street view in case of an emergency. The applicant did submit revised plans with proposed signage, and that can be found on pages T3 and A3 within your plan set. However, staff did find that the proposed signage with the new contact information was a bit too large and is not recommending approval of that specific sign. We have included a revised sign, which is included as Exhibit F, and that sign would have dimensions of 7.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall with the contact number. T-Mobile is also in agreement with this revised sign. Staff did receive one comment from a concerned neighbor, and he really had concerns regarding health and safety issues. Staff responded that the applicant submitted the required radio frequency report, and that radio frequency report stated that the ground level exposure would be 0.57% of the public exposure limit. And because that proposal complies with the standard for public exposure, the city is unable to look into any health-related issues due to strict federal regulations. It is also important to note that earlier this month, on December 2nd, construction began at the site without use permit approval or building permit approval. Construction was stopped. However, that 7-foot riser was installed. The 7-foot riser currently right now is not matching the color of the existing utility pole, but staff has added a condition of approval requiring that 7-foot riser be painted to match the color of the existing utility pole. With that, overall staff is supportive of the proposal and recommends approval of use permit 09-025 based on findings of fact 1 through 6 and conditions of approval 1 through 13. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Marshall?
Are there any other utility pole antennas in residential neighborhoods around town?
I am unaware of any other utility poles. I believe this would be the first one for the city of San Bruno.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Yeah, I'm the one who brought this comment about us taking a look at the stealthing of this proposed antenna. It's the first that I know of that's going to sit on top of a phone pole exposed to the elements, and we've been charged with stealthing these things and hiding these things, and I personally don't feel that this sufficiently stealths the antenna, the antenna. Also, by doing this, we open up a precedent for having these things popping up on power poles all over the neighborhood. So I bring that forward for you guys to discuss, because I'm really not comfortable with this one at all.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
You guys report first. So I'll have some more comments after we get.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. The applicant can please step forward and give us a detailed description of your project, please. Also state your name for our record.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. My name is Misako Hill. I represent T-Mobile West Corporation, located at 1855 Gateway Boulevard, 9th floor, Concord, California. I've been working in the wireless industry for about 8 years. I would like to thank Laura Russell, Lisa Costa-Sanders, and Matt Newbaumer for working with me on these projects. I'm here tonight to ask approval for the proposed facilities on Niles and Park Avenue. I want to make 3 important points regarding the proposed facilities. The first point is that currently in the residential neighborhoods of San Bruno surrounding the proposed facilities, T-Mobile's radio frequency engineers have identified a significant gap in coverage. The identification of the coverage gap is based on a rigorous scientific process. The process includes analyzing T-Mobile's network performance data.
Excuse me, through the chair. Could you slow down just a little bit and maybe get a little closer to the mic?
Sure.
I'm trying to understand you, but I'm not doing too well.
The first point is that currently in the residential neighborhoods of San Bruno, surrounding the proposed facilities on Niles and Park Avenues, T-Mobile's radio frequency engineers have identified a significant gap in coverage. The identification of the coverage gap is based on a rigorous scientific process. This process includes analyzing T-Mobile's network performance data. T-Mobile customers in this area of San Bruno have no phone service inside their houses and limited in-vehicle service. It should be noted that an increasing number of residences are abandoning landlines. Almost 9% of households in California are cell phone-only households. The proposed facility is intended to meet this increased demand for service. The second point is that as the need for quality wireless phone service in residential neighborhoods increases, T-Mobile is sensitive to the needs of each community and works to reduce the visual impact of a new facility on the local area. T-Mobile tries to co-locate on existing structures whenever possible. The proposed cell site will not entail the installation of a new pole structure. An existing joint...
Wait, could you say, can you speak slightly louder and do the last sentence? I'm getting dropouts. It's like a cell phone connection that's not working.
The proposed cell site will not entail the installation of a new pole structure. An existing, is this working?
Yeah. I think it might be the microphone issue. I don't think it's you, actually. It might be a microphone piece because I see you're making every effort and you're enunciating, but the louder you speak, the more we're getting. So,
an existing joint utility pole in the public right-of-way will be used, utilizing the smallest equipment available to provide service to the coverage gap. All of the equipment will be located on the pole and no equipment will be installed on the ground. And my last point is that more and more 911 calls are being placed on wireless networks. Reports have shown that 224,000 emergency 911 calls are made from wireless phones each day. T-Mobile is mandated by the FCC to install enhanced 911 systems in all of their wireless facilities that allow the approximate location of the distressed caller to be located. T-Mobile must place enough facilities throughout communities to ensure a distressed caller's wireless phone has adequate signal available to make an emergency call, stay connected with the 911 operator, and be found by emergency service personnel. I respectfully request that you approve the proposed projects. I'm happy to answer any questions that you or staff may have. I'm also joined tonight by T-Mobile's RF engineer, Rogelio Legal, who will be able to answer any questions you have regarding T-Mobile's wireless network, and Mr. Bill Hammett with Hammett & Edison, who will be able to answer any questions you have regarding the RF report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant from Commissioner? Commissioner Marshall.
First, are you one of the ones on the committee to pick the location or why it was chosen, or just?
Yeah, I work with the engineer.
Okay. Then I'm sure you're gonna speak on the next one too, so I'm gonna kind of direct my questions to both of them, even though we're talking about the one of them. Is that okay?
Through the chair.
I want to make sure with.
We can certainly.
I said since he's talking about both projects, I mean, can I kind of ask vague questions about both projects? I mean, or do we have to ask questions on the next? Not. Well, if I say too much, just tell me to stop. How's that? Okay.
We should.
Well,
if the questions pertain to both applications, you could answer them as
Okay.
they pertain to this application, and you probably just won't have to ask the
Okay.
question again next time.
Okay. Well, what bothers me most about these two projects, we've approved many cell sites here, and I don't think we've said no to any of them. But these are both in residential spots with parks right nearby that could hide them better. There's tall trees in the parks, and you can stealth them a lot better in these parks. There's city facilities nearby. On the Niles, you have San Bruno Avenue. I mean, on the you have San Bruno Avenue close by. You have Crystal Springs Road close by. You have San Bruno Park. You have Cherry Park, and both of these sites you guys picked are right in the middle of residential areas with no trees. I mean, San Bruno in that neighborhood, very few streets with no trees on it that would help with the stealthing. And both of these sites are going to stick out like sore thumbs. And we have none in this area. Are there any, do you know of any other residential ones that we can go drive by?
No.
In South City, Millbrae, Daly City, anywhere nearby?
We have sites in Atherton that are under construction and Burlingame.
And there's probably a lot of trees in Atherton, hiding them all. And also, and I thought that's really more of a comment, but my question is on the power sources on these. Some of the power sources on some of the sites have a lot larger power sources, but they do make some humming noises. And is there any noise in any of these power sites?
One of the equipment cabinets has a fan that only, I think the level is 50 dBs.
Okay. And getting back to my first comment, I guess it was started out to be a question. Was there any other sites nearby that if we want to improve the areas, any commercial sites that you could have maybe, instead of going on a public utility pole, you could have maybe paid rent somewhere?
Unfortunately not. The site works with the existing adjacent sites. If you have the alternate site analysis that we submitted, it shows the existing surrounding sites. So a lot of the I'm sorry, we're on the Niles project. I have an existing sites map that was submitted showing the surrounding sites that we looked at, or the surrounding existing sites and how the site works with the existing network. So we don't want to be too close to existing sites that causes interference. We did look at, for this site, the water tank, Parkside Intermediate, and then the church, St. Robert's.
So, excuse me, are we looking at this Exhibit 2? Is that what you're looking at?
That's the coverage map that also shows the existing sites.
And so the existing sites are the blue dots?
They're the black rectangular.
Black rectangular.
I think they're actually shown as triangles.
Sorry, triangles. Sorry, I apologize. The triangles.
Oh, these big black triangles.
Correct.
Big ones.
So for this, there's 2 existing adjacent sites. And then we have the proposed site north on Park.
So there was no large pole right outside the senior center here, on Crystal Springs Road that you could have used? Or nothing in the San Bruno Park, like where the ball field standards are?
I think the San Bruno Park is a little too far south.
Well, it's about there's probably a light standard less than 500 feet away from your blue dot there, the next blue dot that you were going to talk about next week, probably.
We actually looked, there are actually 3 proposed sites that we're investigating, so the 3 sites work together. So we are looking near that area of the park, so we do have a coverage need there.
I'm sorry, I'm just, to be honest, I can't buy these. I can't, I don't think I could be sold on these with looking the way they are. They're just taller telephone poles. The city would love to get the telephone poles underground, and now we're putting taller ones. No. I can hear you, but I don't think it's working. Mary, can you hear her on TV? Can you hear Pam?
Look down here. Thank you.
Okay, this is on now.
Okay. All right, thank you. So just a few words of caution for the commission. When you are looking at these applications, you need to be very cautious in denying an application for cell site where the applicant has demonstrated that there is a significant gap in coverage, which is what I heard the applicant say. And my understanding is that there is evidence that she has provided of that in your packets. So she can really only, the applicant can only really be required to look at alternative sites if it's going to fill that same gap in coverage, and that's really the key legal question before you. My understanding is that they, having looked at the packet, that they have looked at some alternative sites that for various articulated reasons did not meet that need. If you need any further guidance, please let me know.
Would it be okay to ask the applicant to bring us studies of other sites, such as the ones I mentioned? I gave 3 specific sites I thought would be stealthier. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know if it would work as well, but I mean, are those legitimate questions?
Well, I'll tell you this, that although aesthetic considerations are one that that is a factor that you can look at, I would not recommend making that the only factor that you're considering. So.
Okay. Then I would like to recommend, I mean, I personally would like, well, we'll open public comment first, I guess, before I make final recommendations. Thank you.
Yeah, we're still in planning commission discussion.
Through the chair. I have, according to the city attorney's understanding, is my comments, I understand that I'm not talking about the engineering or the RF or any of that stuff, even the site locations. My problem with your project is the architectural appearance of that piece of equipment, and I'm having issues with that. The second question is that how can a company as big as yours and as experienced as yours have started a project like this without permits or approvals? I'd really like to know.
That was an oversight by PG&E. We have an agreement with PG&E, and unfortunately they had an out-of-date work order with dates, and they started construction without our T-Mobile knowing. But as soon as we found out, we immediately stopped work.
Thank you.
To the chair.
Commissioner Mishra.
I actually had the same concern. I mean, I don't understand why work proceeded without having appropriate.
It was a miscommunication with PG&E and their construction manager.
And a second question I have, and the city attorney can tell me if I'm within bounds or not, but this 50 decibels, where is that measured from? Is that on the ground level? Is that 5 feet away? I mean, this is a logarithmic scale, so I mean, 50 decibels from what point?
I don't have a specific, that was just the equipment specifications for the equipment.
Is that somewhere in the package where I can find it?
No, it wasn't submitted.
Okay. Is there any way I can get that information through your engineer that's here today?
I unfortunately don't have that spec sheet. I can get it to you guys.
Okay, well, I kind of wanted to know that before we made a decision tonight. It's okay, thanks.
Yeah.
But we're definitely happy to, provide a noise study to meet any of the code requirements.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing, and anyone wishing to comment on this project, please step to the microphone, state your name and your street name.
Good evening, Dave Thomas. I live at 1631 Parkview Drive, which is directly opposite the site you're not talking about tonight. I do have some concerns about how the project has moved forward. I think that you should take your time and look at this. This comment tonight, just heard tonight, was that there was a gap in their coverage area. And today I prepared for a meeting with our homeowners association and went to the T-Mobile site and found that the signal levels that they're proposing or that they have in our area are the best quality in the neighborhood. And I have those in the car. And they were printed today off their website. That's for data and voice transmission. So I'm not sure why they need to enhance that. I'm not in favor of the stealth protection that's being suggested. I've asked for photographs of sites that are in place that we can look at, and I've been told that there are none. This is the first time they've ever developed a site that in this configuration. So I went to a website today that showed 657 photographs of cell sites. Not one of those cell sites of the 657 have this configuration. So I would agree with them that there's nothing out there that's going to tell us what this looks like. I can tell you that adding an extension on that pole and painting it is not going to make the pole go away. I don't think anybody's going to believe that painting the pole and the antenna is the same color is going to make it so you don't see it. That's all I have at this point in time. I did meet with our homeowners association tonight, and we will be following that up with meetings with the city and the staff to share our concerns as to how the staff report was presented to you as our representatives for the Planning Commission. And if you'd like, I'll go out to my vehicle and bring in the T-Mobile coverage plans for the areas in question.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson.
Mr. Thomas, can I ask you a question? Are you referring to this site that we're talking about here as 1736 Nile?
Yes.
But you said you live at
I live at 1631 Parkview, and one of the applications for a cell site that was withdrawn by T-Mobile is for 1630 Parkview. And as I was researching the area coverage for 1630 Parkview, this area coverage comes up and shows all of the Niles site. It shows actually from Genevan all the way over to Lameda, from the top of the county park all the way down below Cypress. And it shows the areas where their data coverage is the strongest and the weakest. And in our area that's shown in that zone, it's color-coded purple, which is the highest level of service. That's the highest level of coverage that you can expect in that area. For cellular communications, everything is bright green except we're right through the park and up through the county park. All of the other areas are a dark green or a lighter green, which means you have fair to good coverage or the best coverage. None of it in that entire area on their cell site is listed as poor coverage.
So would it be your position that this map that they submitted is incorrect?
I've never seen that map. I have a staff report that was emailed to me by the city staff. But quite honestly, not being in color, I couldn't tell you if I've seen that map or not. I can only tell you that the coverage of the map that I printed out today is different than that.
Thank you.
I'll acknowledge you for a moment. Our director, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, in order to not jeopardize future planning commission meetings, I would say we concentrate on this one application and not other applications that are similar. We continue the application on Parkview so that we could analyze it more, and so that the applicant could work with the neighborhood more. And I don't want to jeopardize your ability to have a discretionary review of that at a later time by discussing it now.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Mr. Peterson.
I was talking about the application at 1736 Niles. Was I confusing you?
No, you are correct.
Thank you.
Let me think of where we are. The applicant, you have a response?
So I do have T-Mobile's radio frequency engineer here who can address that issue. The website coverage information is not comparing the same information that we have provided in the application.
Okay.
So different levels of radio frequency. So I'm going to have Rogelio Legal come up and explain the differences and what the site, indeed, the proposed site shows.
Good evening. I'm Rogelio Legal. I'm the RF engineer for T-Mobile. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't looked at the website map, but but we have the maps that we gave you. Those are the ones we based our decisions upon as to where to put the sites, and and how to design them. So with regards to the website map, I could not answer that because I don't have the proper like comparison between the two maps, the maps that I have and the maps on the website.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Marshall?
So did you say you saw the maps on the website then?
No, I haven't.
I thought you said, I thought.
No, I
Okay,
haven't
I thought
seen
you,
the maps on
okay.
the website.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Mishra?
Could you tell me what 50 decibels is? Like, what kind of noise is 50 decibels?
Actually, I'm not qualified to answer any questions with regards to noise level because I'm an RF engineer and.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Planning Director?
Through the chair.
Yes.
What we would do in terms of noise transmission and sound decibels is our building inspectors, when it is actually installed, would test it, and it would be from ground level. And 65 decibels is specified within our code as the ambient noise level. That's what you have to keep it below. So 50 decibels would obviously be below that, but our building inspectors would actually have something that would test that at the time of installation.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd like to
Commissioner Marshall?
ask the applicant one. On the Exhibit 1, you have the project site, but then you have the three alternative ones that, in fact, I think you mentioned one was a Parkside, one was at St. Robert's, and one's the water tower.
Correct.
Why were those not chosen?
If you look on Exhibit 3, the Parkside Intermediate School would work, but that would require the building of a new pole structure.
That would, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of that. That would what?
Require the construction of a new pole.
So more expensive.
Possibly.
Okay.
And then the Cunningham water tank site, if you look at Exhibit 3, only half of the coverage objective is met. The site is surrounded by trees, so the coverage gets reduced. And then the St. Robert's declined to enter into a lease agreement, so we're not able to locate there.
Okay, now, like I said, I'm no engineer and I'm barely know how to turn my cell phone on, but do you guys use the same frequencies as your, I probably shouldn't say names, but as your competitors?
No. T-Mobile operates at a different...
T-Mobile is different than Verizon and AT&T?
Correct.
Okay, I was wondering why, I mean, there's no need for them to come into neighborhoods with these poles.
Different carriers have different coverage needs.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair. Just one point of clarification, just so everyone understands, because I was having a hard time following when I first looked at this, but in terms of the coverage maps, there's 3 different levels of coverage that they have to meet as an objective. The most widespread available coverage is actually on street, so if you're just walking around the street, and that's the whole gray portion of the map. The yellow portion of the map is if you're in your car, and that's the second standard, and I'm looking at Exhibit 2 right now. And the third is what they're trying to meet as part of this application, and that's when you're in your home, when you're in the school, when you're in any building, that's, as the federal law states, is that's the objective that they're trying to go to meet the same coverage that a landline would have by being inside the buildings. So those are the 3 different levels of coverage that they're showing on the map, and the green level is the one that the federal law says that we have to allow the cell phone sites to achieve. Okay.
For want of a microphone, I'm just going to speak from up here. So one other thing I did want to make the commission aware of are the legal requirements contained in the municipal code that expresses a preference for certain types of facilities. And expressed in our code is this, in terms of structure types, that the main preference is for, and again, this is a preference, not a requirement, but for building-mounted antennas, compatible with the design of the building, stealth design. The second type is when a building-mounted antenna is not possible, distributed repeater antennas, which telephone poles are a type of that, are encouraged, although they're encouraged, if it can be, along the city's arterial and collector streets. That's the preference. And then the last type would be a monopole. So I did want to make clear that the type of facility that's being proposed is the not the least desired, but actually the second most expressed preference in our code. Although it is preferred not to be in residential areas, it is not prohibited from residential areas.
Thank you. I do have a question for you as well. Now, in San Bruno, we have made efforts in past times to do underground utilities. So what happens, and maybe this is a question for Aaron, but what happens if if that particular street is designated as an underground utility?
I'm not sure that that
5
can be
years from now.
required for these facilities.
Yeah, so let's say 5 years
5 years from now, there are streets in our city that have become underground utilities versus having the poles in place, and there have been streets that have been designated as that over the years. So in the future, should something like that take place, and I know this is probably,
You're probably going to need to see a change in the federal law, because the policy behind the federal and the state law is to encourage these facilities, to allow them to be able to make them provided to those who wish to use them. So that is the preference and clear policy that is expressed both in federal and state law. It's to make it available and to not create any obstacles to their provisioning.
Does the state law say to come to San Bruno and do it first?
It doesn't say to come to San Bruno and do it first, but it does say that you can't deny their request if it is to fill a significant gap in coverage. Now, that's up to the applicant to demonstrate that to you, but that's...
I mean, if I'm asking too many questions, tell me to stop.
No,
but
you
I know
can never ask too many questions. That's your job.
Yes, I do. But the fact that the website has a coverage map and their sales side of it showing the coverage, isn't that an argument to say that it's not needed for us?
Maybe or maybe not. It depends if it's an apples to oranges comparison. So what I was understanding the community development director to say is that, okay, the lowest level of coverage is being met, but not the highest level. And so the applicant has the right to get the highest level of coverage met. That's how I understood it. And the applicant could be the one to clarify whether his understanding and mine is correct.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments?
I'd like to ask the applicant a question.
Okay, if you can please step forward again.
On Exhibit 2, the existing coverage map, do you have that?
Yes.
Andy? A point that would be more central to the least coverage would be more, how do you say, to the southeast of where the project site is, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be like on Crystal Springs Road?
Southeast along Crystal Spring Road, I believe is too close to the existing site to the east.
Well, I'm just going by the gray area. The gray area is weaker coverage than yellow area, right?
The sites, yeah, that's true. The sites have to work together, so they have to, the sites speak to each other. So they have to be positioned so that the radio frequency work together. And if the site is too close, it causes interference and overlap. So if we were more to the southeast.
Well, so then if you were directly south of the project site on Crystal Springs Road, wouldn't that be an acceptable location?
At this time, right now, for this area of San Bruno, we have 3 proposed sites. One site is on hold to do more alternate site analysis. So if we move this site further south, it would interfere with the proposed site on Parkview that's on hold right now.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, can you move that site more south?
Yeah.
Through the chair.
I mean,
through the chair.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking that I'm on the other side of the thing.
Yeah.
This is really, I'd like to make a suggestion that we're trying to problem solve this at this level up here, and I'd like us to maybe have our community development director, he has some comments, and possibly get more information before we come to this place. And we're here to really trying to look at site maps and having someone who was the engineer that really isn't at the level of engineering at some of the questions that we have. So I believe that, if you can have some comments to this. I'm finding at this point that even I'm calling myself through the chair.
Yes. Yeah, actually, you read our mind. That was the recommendation we were going to make. I could see that there's a lot of areas where the Planning Commission requires additional information in order to come to a conclusion for this application. So if you want to, I think we got a lot of the information, but if there's anything else that you would like to note, but what I would recommend at this point is for you to continue this application to a future Planning Commission meeting. And we'll come, if you want to, we've already noted a few things, but if there's anything else that you would like to add, and we'll come back with a specific list of information.
And also some comments were concerned aesthetically, some noise level. There's a couple of different areas. So if you can, I think you've really gotten the details in place, but it looks like the applicant is doing her best job at giving us the information, but it looks like there's more information behind the scenes that needs to be answered. And even the engineer, to his own admission, said that he doesn't have that level of information. So it just, I think continuing and getting that detail of information makes complete sense. So I'd like to bring it back to the commission for a motion.
Just one more question to staff. Was a code enforcement case started on the starting of the poll, so we can make sure that nothing has been stopped?
I don't know the answer offhand. I know that we sent up a building inspector to stop work on the project, so a stop work notice was issued. I don't know if there's actually a code enforcement case that was started, but I could check on that when I get back to the office.
And through the chair, I'd like to make a motion that we continue this item to the next
to
meeting?
A future Planning Commission meeting, because I want to make
Commission.
sure we notice the neighborhood. And
we have to open public hearing first, don't we? Yeah, let's open public. Oh, no, we did. You have to close the public hearing.
Closed.
Has it been closed?
Yeah, we're back to planning discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to stop and think.
I know.
For a moment.
Yeah, and through the chair, if I could detail a specific list right now as I hear it of the information that I've heard that you want to hear for the next hearing, and if you could add to it if there's anything else that you specifically want, it'll make for the most legally sound decision as we move forward. The first is that you want to see from an aesthetic standpoint if this has been done anywhere else, and would like photographs of that, as well as address locations that we could provide you in advance, or website address if there is photos that are posted online that show this.
Right.
So that's one that I got from an aesthetic standpoint. From a noise standpoint, we want to see how the noise objectives are going to be met and what the technical information is that led to their conclusions within the report. From alternative sites analysis, we'd like to see what other specific locations they looked at within the area, including the sites that were mentioned at the Planning Commission tonight, and why those would work or why not, or why those were not chosen as part of this application. Do we have anything? Have you noted?
And I think adding to...
And the fourth would be why is the website information different? Is the website marketing information that perhaps doesn't tell the full story for in-building coverage, but tells the street side information? And what's the differences between the two maps, and why is there differences between the two maps?
And through the chair, one more concern, Aaron. If on maintenance, how often there'll be maintenance, and what needs to be maintained? Is the fan, the electrical? Do they have to bring lift trucks out?
Okay.
And I think this is part of what the list really goes to, which is having the applicant be able to explain to you very clearly what the significant gap in coverage is, how is that created, both explaining the map that was provided to you, but that is difficult to understand, comparing that to the website information, explaining why those are two different things. That would be part of the discussion also on the alternative sites that they considered and why those were not sufficient to meet their needs.
Through the chair. One other question I have is, in our review, we always tell the applicants to speak to the neighbors next door and make sure they understand what the project is about. And I know that they've been noticed twice, but they don't, I don't know if they haven't gotten their mail or they haven't said anything because they don't understand what's going on. But I'm not going to speak to their level of commitment on this project, but I would like to know that they know that this is happening and what this really causes in terms of noise, in terms of, you know, if maintenance is going to be done every 6 months, if their front door is going to be blocked. I mean, I would like for them to know what's going on. And I don't know if there's any significant steps we can take so that they understand what's going on.
We could think of something creatively to see how we could actually outreach to the immediate neighbors.
Just the ones from the front and the side.
The ones that is in front of their homes.
Basically, in front of the home is what I'm concerned about. Because I hate for have you know emails or phone calls to you to say what's going on in front of my property. Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about.
Commissioner Biassada?
Yeah, through the chair. I just want to make it clear that, you know, it's my understanding that there is a need for this site, and I'm not denying that we have a need. My concern is that it's like they've taken the cheapest, easiest route to facilitate that need, and I want to make sure that whatever we approve is going to be aesthetically appropriate for our city, you know, especially going forward, since it will set a precedent, because we don't have anything like this in our city.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Thomas has a question, and I'm going to grant him the opportunity to come in and ask the question, and then be happy to take yours.
I would just have a comment. In your notification process, could you also notify not only the resident who's living in the home, but a property owner? Because that wasn't the case in my neighborhood, and that just came to light today. That some of the owners of the property are absentee owners, and their tenants received a notice possibly, but the owner should actually notice as well.
I'm certain there's probably a procedure in place, and if our community...
Through the chair, we actually send them to the property owners. There are some circumstances we send them to the residents. Whatever the property owner has listed as their address on their tax roll is the address we send it to, and we've always done that because it's required by law.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So I just wanted to address the maintenance issue. So the sites are pretty much low maintenance. They're only maintained on an emergency basis, so they're unmanned and typically don't require any ongoing maintenance unless, you know, an emergency occurs. Okay. So there's not every 6 months maintenance. And then I wanted to request that the project be continued to the next available Planning Commission hearing.
That's what we were going to do.
Yes, thank you for that. That is the motion it's on. And also, Aaron, I wanted to ask you a question, maybe a bit of education for us. A couple times it's come up in comparison to other competitor services. You know, it's like, okay, can they get together and you know, create this? You know, I'm not recommending that that's the situation, but at least educating us how that process might work. And it doesn't need to be at a commission meeting or however it can be, but there are those unanswered questions, and for us to get on the same page, because of course this question has come up. Well, can they come together themselves and create this sort of unit that we're not having poles popping up everywhere? And there's a more that may not be possible.
Yeah. We do have a preference, but they're not required to do that. They often. I've found that cell phone companies often try to do that when possible because it's cheaper for them to co-locate. But usually what happens is they have to be located a certain distance on the pole, whether it's 10 feet on the pole, and you know, sooner or later they actually run out of room on that pole. And as there's more cell phone carriers right now, they're just running out of space on a lot of the poles. And as a city, we can't actually require co-location.
Yeah, I just think it wasn't so much requirements as much as just educating us in that process, how that process works.
Absolutely, we could do something.
It's useful every now and then. And you know, when I'm hearing statistics as 9% of households are no longer having landline phones, so there's just new information that's taking place. And I think just having that opportunity would be useful. Thank you. All right.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson.
Has we closed the public hearing?
We have. I'm a bit confused in the process, but we officially actually have.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll make
All right,
that
there's a motion.
that we move the continue this item to future planning commission as soon as it works between the staff and the applicant.
Second.
And sorry, one other addition, if I could, through the chair, is that you also continue it with the specific list that we outlined further in the meeting.
With your list of outlines, yes.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and second to continue this into a date that's compatible with the applicant and with staff, with the additions of the list. And that's for use permit 09-025. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Well, we'll try something new this time. Adjacent to 1439 Park Avenue. We are now having Commissioner Chase return.
If you would like us to go ahead with the full report, we can, describing the situation. We can also, if you have the same concerns, we could open public hearing, go over those, and then also come back with a specific list again, because it's a similar application.
All right. And so the adjacent to 1439 Park Avenue is a request for a conditional use permit to install a wireless telecommunication facility within a residential zoning district on a joint utility pole in the public right-of-way per sections 12220 and 1284-160 of the San Bruno zoning ordinance. T-Mobile West is the applicant. Staff report, please.
So would you like the full report describing it? We could. Why don't I have Matt come up and give it an abbreviated report, just going over the bullet points of the project.
Okay.
All right, so as stated, the applicant has applied for a use permit to construct a wireless facility within this residential zoning district. The wireless facility is proposed to be attached to an existing utility pole located adjacent to 1439 Park Avenue in the public right-of-way. The proposal is very similar to the project located at 1736 Niles, with the only difference being the overall height of the pole. So the overall height of the pole at the Niles site was 49 feet 11 inches, where the height of this pole would be 45 feet 8 inches. Again, the site will have that 7-foot wood riser installed, and the 3 antennas would be installed on top of that wood riser. They would also be enclosed by that radome feature as well, thereby limiting the view from the public right-of-way. 4 equipment enclosures would also be installed on this public utility pole as well. Staff did receive one comment from a concerned neighbor, and that comment was, again, regarding the health and safety concerns. Staff responded that the applicant submitted the required RF report and that the exposure limit is 0.43% of that limit. Because the proposal complies with the standard for public exposure, staff is unable to look into the health-related issues any further due to federal regulations. As stated, this site is extremely similar to that 1736 Niles Avenue, and the only difference, once again, is the height of the pole. So at this time, I would forward it back to the Planning Commission for future discussion.
Are there any questions from staff or
Quick question?
for staff?
For staff, did work commence on this one too, or was it just the one before this?
There was one neighborhood concern about this one too.
No, I'm sorry. Did work start on this project?
No, work did not start
Okay,
on this.
thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for staff? Yep. All right. Thank you. We'll open public comment. And so can you give me some guidance in the situation, Aaron? I just really don't want to go through the whole procedure of creating.
I would let the applicant, if she would like to present anything related to the application, you can, or if you would like the same information, that specific list that we went over at the past application, we could also apply it to this application. But I would at least like to give the applicant a chance to present the application if she chooses to do so.
So if the applicant can please step forward, state your name.
Misako Hill, representing T-Mobile Wireless. I don't have anything to add. It's a similar presentation that I had for the first site. T-Mobile does have a coverage gap in this area of San Bruno, and the proposed facility is intended to address that need.
right, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant from the staff? I mean, from the commission? Okay. Then we'll open it to the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this matter? Hearing none, we'll close public hearing, bring it
Through the
back.
chair, I'd like to continue this item to a future planning commission
Okay. There's been a motion.
with the attached list.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Thank you. There was a couple of discussions. I do want to make a note that there was some discussions about the cost factor on this also. And I think that in this economy, everyone is looking at a cost factor, so I think it's important for us not to prejudice the situation because it's less cost. Okay, the next item would be city staff discussion.
Who would like to be on the first Architecture Review Committee meeting of 2010?
Wow.
Commissioner Mishra,
I'll be on it.
Commissioner Chair Johnson, and Vice Chair Chase.
You may not be
Great.
on the committee.
Other than that, this is the last meeting of the year, so wish you all happy holidays and a happy new year coming up.
Happy holidays.
Okay, thank you. And any planning commission discussion?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Mishra.
I just wanted to bring something up we discussed today, which is the sustainability guidelines. I wanted to know if there was a procedure. I mean, the project that came forward today, in my opinion, could have been LEED certified easily. I understand cost is a factor. I don't want to push LEED certification, but I do want to push sustainability. And I know we've been using the checklist. It's my understanding that the checklist is just a way, it's a protocol, but it's not really something that's enforceable. Is the city council looking into something that will make it enforceable, or in some respect, if you can educate us?
The answer is, we've been given direction to look into different green building type of ordinances. Most likely in January, there will be a joint study set, maybe perhaps January, perhaps February, joint study session with the Planning Commission and the City Council to go over the proposed zoning code. And I would think at that time is where we would like to get the strong direction from either the Planning Commission or the City Council to really look into this and set up the expectations for a green building ordinance. But in the meantime, I'd be happy to sit down with you, Commissioner Mishra, and kind of go over what you think. You are LEED certified, and we don't have anyone LEED certified on staff, to go over how we could make these projects at least meet the intent of LEED throughout the process and help them achieve that objective.
And I think the guide that we have attached to the projects actually meets it in certain ways. Maybe not the criteria exactly, but in terms of the guideline, it does. I just kind of feel uncomfortable forcing upon a certain certification onto a client, onto a applicant, and I wanted more direction on what the flexibility was. And so if the city council is going to be looking at it with us in a joint session, that's great. If you want to meet personally, that's fine by me.
Yeah, well, why don't we do that beforehand, so I
Sure.
have some information going into the zoning ordinance.
Sure.
Any other discussions from commission? Okay. I'd like actually to appreciate the staff, acknowledge you all for a wonderful year. You worked very hard. You make our job much easier because the reports are thorough, they're very detailed, and you're certainly a very competent, very professional staff. And on behalf of the commissioners, I want to thank you very, very much, and we appreciate the work that you do. We wish you happy holidays and a very prosperous and a very joyful new year. May you be blessed. Thank you.
Ditto.
So, next item, we're adjourned.